Hi there, and welcome to this tutorial video for Sample Logic's Expeditions. Before watching this video, please take a few minutes to view the Expeditions overview video, which outlines the basic features of the instrument. If you'd prefer just to hear the sounds, then the Multis in Action video is just for you. If you've any experience of Sample Logic's other loop-based libraries, such as Rhythmology and Electrocity, you can probably skip this video, as the functionality is the same within those instruments. In this walkthrough, I'll be looking in detail at the different modules of the Expeditions engine, including the browsers, randomization, loop cores, static and dynamic effects, the playback pages, and the master effects page. I won't be playing too many of the sounds and presets here, but instead I'll explain exactly what each module of the Expeditions engine does to the sound. That means that usually I'll be just demoing simple sounds as I demonstrate each parameter in turn so you can hear exactly what's going on. Before I delve into the individual modules, let's look at the interface and signal flow. Expeditions runs in the full version of Kontakt and is one big NKI instrument with all of the browsing and sound shaping capabilities built into the interface itself. Each sound starts off as a tempo synced loop, and you can load 4 at once into the 4 loop core slots just here. Each loop is sliced into 16 parts, which can then be played back in a variety of ways. Then each of these slices can have effects applied by the static and dynamic effects modules just here. After that, the sound from each loop core passes through the individual loop core effects modules, and finally through a master effects module before being output as a stereo signal. Let's start by looking at the browser modules. There are actually 3 different browsers. One for raw loops, one for loop core presets, which are loop core sounds with the static and dynamic effects applied, and finally the multi-core preset browser, which will load 4 loop cores and full effects for each of them. You can browse by instrument and genre tags by clicking one or more of them. In each browser, it's also easy to select your favourite loops, loop cores and multi-core presets and filter those. The engine will remember your favourites even when the Kontakt instrument is quit and a new instance of Expeditions is loaded. You can load just elements of the presets by using these 2 buttons, either loading just the loops from a preset whilst keeping the current effects intact, or you can load new effects and retain the loops. So let's look at an individual loop core module, and I'll demo this using loop core 1, the yellow one, but all 4 loop cores operate in the same way. Here is where you choose a loop from the almost 1000 available. You can either use the left and right arrows, or you can choose from the browser. Each loop is 16 slices long, and these slices will normally play back in order. But you can change the step length to make the loop shorter, turn each slice on and off by clicking the buttons, and you can reorder the slices by changing the numbers underneath the buttons. Both the on, off and slice order controls have presets accessed from the drop-down menus or by using the left and right arrows to flick between them. It's also possible to use these small playback arrows to play the chosen slices forwards, backwards, ping pong style, or for a certain number of repetitions. A quick note on playing the loops: the red key on middle C will play all 4 loop cores together, and the 4 coloured keys above that on D, E, F and G are assigned to play individual loop cores 1 through 4 respectively. Next up, the loop core static and dynamic effects modules, and they're accessed just here. The difference between static and dynamic effects is that the steps of the static effects run in time with the loop slices, but the steps of the dynamic effects can be run at any speed. So first the static effects, and the elements here are volume, panning, transposing, stutter effect and reverse playback. You can turn each effect on or off with its button to the left, or do the whole lot with command click. Each of the 16 slices either has a small value slider, as is the case for volume and panning, or they've got an on-off button, as you can see for stutter and reverse. Transpose has a plus and minus value, which shifts the pitch in semitones for each slice. Many of the loops in Expeditions have tonal content, so using the transpose function is especially good for tuning one loop to another. Each of the effects has a range of presets which can be selected via drop-down menus or by using the left and right arrows. And you can clear each effect's values with the X button. There are also presets for the entire static effects module, which have all of the 5 effects programmed in useful sequences. So moving on to the dynamic effects module, and this works in a similar way to the static effects, but with way more options and controls. There are 6 effect slots where you can load 23 different effects. There are presets too, both for individual effects and the entire module. With this module, you can easily change the number of steps just here, and also the speed that the matrix runs. So these 6 effects don't have to run at the same speed as the loop slices and static effects. If you click on the FX expand arrows just here, you can tweak each effect's parameters. Here you can turn on the step sequencer, which gives another level of control and ties this sequencer to a particular effect parameter. In the case of the vowel effect here, it's the cutoff point. Whilst we're on the subject of static and dynamic effects, I'll show you the playback pages. By default, Expeditions has a single playback page. However, using the controls here, you can add up to 3 extra ones, and each of these can have unique static and dynamic effects applied. You can switch between these 4 playback pages on the fly by using the C, D, E and F key switches just here. Playback pages are especially useful for when using the transpose function to change the root key of loops. Next up, the loop core master effects module, which can be found just here. For each loop core, you can control the overall level and panning. Also keyboard velocity intensity. EQ presets can be loaded and the intensity dialed in just here. The energizer control drives the signal harder and produces a saturation effect. Lastly, there are knobs for attack and decay, which apply to each loop slice, and you can get some great gating effects with these. Last up in the signal chain is the master effects module. This module applies effects to the entire instrument across the output of all of the loop cores. There are 6 slots for hot swappable effects, all with many different adjustable parameters. Click on each effect to open and adjust the settings. And there are also a range of master presets. So by now you should have a good idea of what the modules do and how to program them. Expeditions can take matters into its own hands with the randomization module and its filters. Most of the modules have a little R button, which can be turned on and off. You can see it here on the loop cores, loop core effects modules, and the master effects module. This shows if the module is armed for randomization or not. To control the randomization filters, click the arrow here, and you'll see a number of checkboxes which can be used to filter what the randomization engine does. Select the elements that you want to randomize, and then hit the random button to do so. This is the random play button, and it's pretty fun. It won't affect loop source, loop core, or the effects chain, but for everything else it will. And if it's activated, then whichever parameters are ticked will be randomized each time you play a loop or the loop repeats around. I hope that gives you a deeper understanding of Expeditions, and you should now be able to use the thousands of onboard loops and presets as starting points for your own compositions, or you can even construct brand new sequences from scratch. I've covered almost everything here, but there are a few things that I've had to brush over for the sake of brevity, so for more information please head to the Sample Logic website, and thanks so much for watching.